Well, hi folks, middle of May now, so time to get a few things planted out finally. So I'm going to plant my red cabbage out into the final positions. I've got my cobra climbing French beans there, they're going to be going into the polytunnel. And I've got another short little row of peas which will be going in. So we'll get on and get these planted out. I think I'll start off with cabbages actually. Alright then folks, I'm going to be growing them under this netting to keep all the butterflies and pigeons and pheasants and whatnots off. So I'm going to have to try and figure out how to space them equally apart for a start off. So I'll put a little peg in each corner just to figure out. So I'm growing 10. So I want them to be about, I think you can plant these about 15 inches apart, so we'll have a look. I think that should be about right, because they're not a massive variety, so they can be quite close. So I think that should do, yeah, that's probably about 15-18 inches apart. So we'll get on and get them shoved in. So I like to plant my cabbages out when they've got 2 sets of true leaves on at least. If you see there the seed leaves, that's the first pair, that's the second pair, that's the third pair of true seed leaves, so they're more than ready to go in. And also what you can do is you can plant up to, if you've got leggy ones, these aren't leggy at all actually for a change, you can actually plant right up to the first pair of true seed leaves, true leaves, so you can bury a bit of the stalk so that they're not rocking about as much. So it couldn't be easier really. Just going to dig a hole, added some bloodfish and bone to the bed, knock the pot out and just plonk her in. Again, I'm going to plant this a little bit deeper than it was, just up to the bottom of the leaves. And then the thing is with cabbages, I don't know why, they do like to be firmed in well, because apparently if you don't firm them in really well, then they've got a chance of sort of blowing or going to seed, not producing a decent heart. Don't know why that is. It's especially relevant with things like Brussels sprouts apparently. If you plant them in loose soil, then you do get blown Brussels sprouts, like me. I've never ever grown a decent Brussels sprout in my life. So like I said, couldn't be easier. These are what, about 12-14 inches apart and about 15 to 18 inches in the row. They said you could plant these as closely as a foot apart, so they should be all right. Like I said, they're not a huge variety. They're a red cabbage. I've grown red cabbage this year instead of green, because when I've grown green ones in the past, they all just seem to come at once, especially the summer cabbages, and they don't hold. Whereas the red cabbage, they'll tend to grow on into winter and hold into winter time, so you can just take them when you need them. And it's a bit something different really. Some of these plants I've actually got 2 in. I've forgotten to thin out, so because I've got more than enough, I'll just nip that one off. So I'll just give these a good old watering in. Put the old netting back on and they should be good to go. Probably put a few slug pellets around just in case there are any slugs about. I'm going to try these new non-toxic slug pellets. Don't know whether they work or not, but they haven't got the metaldehyde in that's harmful to things, so we'll see how they get on. But it can be annoying if you do get a big batch of slugs, get some wet weather, and you can just sort of chop them all off at the bottom, and then you're back to nothing. So that's these in. Won't be easier. The only real pests I suppose are butterflies and pigeons and stuff, so the net should keep those off. Slugs and snails and things like that. So we'll just get the net back on, and then that's job's a good one. So that's the old cabbages done. Alright folks, time to get the little row of peas in. It's only a little short row, but it's a month. I've sown it a month later than the first lot. So all I've done is made a little trench in the bottom to try and replicate the shape of the gutter that it's been grown in. And I'm just going to slide sections out. You can slide it out in one whole section, but I prefer to just do it in little sections like that. Because if it does get stuck, then at least you're only just trying to force a little section out. Now because it was a little bit short, I'll just space these bits out a bit. Two more bits. That couldn't be easier, just sliding them in. Give it a bit more of a spacing. Plonk this little bit in the middle, and that's it. So all I'm going to do now is just backfill with the soil around the little composty tube that I've put in. I did this a while ago, so the soil's dried out a bit. I'll give it a good old watering in, and then the roots will take almost instantly, and they've got a really good head start then, as opposed to sowing them into the ground when, if it's been cold, they just won't sort of germinate. So I do find this a good method of growing them. So we should have a second batch of peas. To be honest, I sowed these a month later than the first lot, and the ones I sowed a month ago are not much bigger than this. So just goes to show you, if you plant stuff early, the later stuff always catches up once it starts to warm up. So that's that done. Just give it a good old watering in, that'll just sort everything out. And what I'm going to do with these, I've got a little mesh cover that I'm going to put over them just to keep pheasants off for a while if there are any about, and if there are any mice that fancy digging them up, that should keep them off as well. So that's just a little bit of box section mesh, small enough to keep mice out, and certainly small enough to keep pheasants out. There's always something gets in the way. There's one outside that I'll have to succumb. So that's that in. That'll keep mice out for a bit if there are any, and keep the old pheasants out. So that's the second lot of peas done. Easy peasy. Alright then folks, last thing I'm going to plant out is my French beans. It's a bit cramped in this corner here. There's all sorts growing in here. That's a rocket that's self-seeded from last year from somewhere, so I've kept that in. Might as well keep that. And there's some Californian poppies, so I'll keep those in. So anyway, these were only sown about 2 weeks ago, and they're more than big enough to go out now. And it's more than enough. There are 6 plants for a huge crop, because they are unbelievably vigorous. Our cobra, if you ask anybody who's grown them, they'll tell you exactly the same. So I'm just growing these up 4-foot canes, and then at the top of each cane I'm going to tie some cord from the top of the cane to the ridge of my polytunnel, so then they can continue to grow up that at an angle outwards. And then what happens when you grow them at an angle outwards, the beans sort of hang down like bunches of grapes, if you will, so it makes them even easier to pick. So yeah, it couldn't be easier. These, I've never grown them outside because it's a little bit windy for me, but I'm sure if you've got a sheltered spot, they'll do just as well for people outside as inside. But yeah, if you want to try a French bean, a climbing French bean, the glasses are steaming up. then I would definitely recommend Cobra, because they're absolutely superb. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to reach the end. It's a little bit cramped. So this is that bed that I dug out last year, so it's all fresh virgin soil, and it wasn't the best soil. It was more subsoil than topsoil, so I added a lot of sand to it, so I don't know what the results will be. One thing is, it is very water retentive, because I did dig down quite deeply, and when it rains it tends to get a lot of the sub water into it, so that's what you need with beans. Plenty of water as well, same with peas. But we'll see how we get on. They seem to grow well in any conditions, so I don't seem to be too fussy. Can't reach. Oh. That's the last one in. Like I said, 6 will be more than enough. First time I ever grew these, I grew about 30, and it was just ridiculous. We were getting about £10 of beans a day when they were on the full harvest. So there's no need to grow a great deal of these, and they freeze well. Let's see if I can get this across. Give them a bit of a watering in. I have to pour it down the front of my pants. Oh God, it's hot in here as well. Right then folks, that's about it I think. Oh, that's my French beans done. Well right then folks, that's about it I think. Bit more planting done. Almost fully planted out now really, but it's good to get stuff in. I'll do a bit of a roundup in a week or so, because things have started to move on a bit. But anyway, that's about it for now. I'll see you later.